Well, and there's also still some names, wide receivers, some big ones, looking for homes this offseason who are free agents. So let's talk about that a little bit. Super Bowl champion Odell Beckham Jr. still a free agent, as is his former teammate Jarvis Landry. Former Bills receivers Cole Beasley and Emmanuel Sanders looking for their next team. So in Mel's most recent mock draft, he has 7 wide receivers coming off the board in the first round, starting with Ohio State's Garrett Wilson, who we love. Dan loves this guy, to the Falcons at number 8. So, Robert, as teams assess this rookie class versus the veterans we just talked about who were available, it's easy to start asking yourself if finding a good wide receiver is now easier than it ever was, right? Why is that right now?
Yeah, I mean, these wide receivers are developing at a crazy rate. If you look at Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, they were both top 5 in yards in their rookie seasons. These guys are coming out of college ready to produce right away. And I look back 10, 15 years at the explosion of the quarterback camps and 7-on-7, that as you continue to develop quarterbacks at a younger age, you're also going to have to develop the guys that they're throwing the ball to. So I think we're seeing that now in the NFL. And with some of these older wide receivers, they tend to have great success, and then at some point, 8, 9 years down the road, boom, they fall off the cliff. So these coaches and these GMs and these decision makers, they're saying, listen, we can go raid the draft, get draft picks, and draft these guys in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th round and have them be more productive than some of these older veteran wide receivers. So I think that's where they're getting their confidence from, and they know they can control these guys for 5 years and not have to pay them big-time money.
Yeah, that's it, too.
Yeah, RGT, I think the 7-on-7 and the camps are a great point. Yeah. Reiterating, you only pay these guys that change defensive schemes. And the Bills are going to be a great kind of study point because they've got high money in their quarterback and now high money in Stephon Diggs. You know, looking into the drafting of the wide receivers, since 2018, in the 1st and 2nd round, there have been 40 wide receivers drafted in the last 4 drafts. There's only 6 guys that we know are relative busts. That means 34 of those guys have either become good players, great players, or elite players already. So to speak to RG3's point, the ability for receivers to come in that are relatively drafted early and come in and be impactful guys is more and more becoming likely, rather than if you're a football team going, I want to pay this receiver $120 million.
It makes you think, too, and this is kind of what Robert was saying about the fact that schemes in college are leading these receivers to be more prepared because there is a little more similarity now, even at the NFL level. So, Adam, do we expect, though, the veteran group of wideouts, we talked about Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry, these guys going to have to wait until after next week's draft to begin finding a new home?
I think a lot of these veterans, what they like, Laura, is if they could find a fit before, that's great. But I think some of them also would like to see which teams are drafting which wide receivers and who's got the greatest need after the draft. I've spoken to some free agents who have said that before, where they've made mistakes in picking teams before the draft, only to see the team then go out and address that position in the draft, and that player doesn't have the same opportunity that he might have before the draft. So if you're one of these wide receivers, maybe the best course of action right now is sit back, see who does not get a wide receiver in the draft, and then you have that potential place as an option. Look, we go into the draft, there are a lot of teams that need help at the wide receiver position. And we talked about Green Bay maybe being in the market for one of these. Here's the distinction on Devontae Adams. Basically, they wanted to re-sign him. He didn't want to be in Green Bay. So they wanted to pay a veteran wide receiver and couldn't pay him because he wanted to move on. Maybe they could pay one of these other guys.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.